Our George, he came to us in 1940 as an evacuee from the Blitz in London. My wife Winnie, she was really excited about it. See, we've never been able to have kids of our own, and she was really looking forward to having a little one to look after and to take on. Well, we got to the village hall, and there was this young lad, a right little urchin, I have to say, black eye. All his knees were scraped, and well, the only thing he had with him was what he stood up in and his gas mask, but he didn't put our Winnie off. No, not in any way, shape or form. Now then, I said to him, and he looked at Winnie and he looked at me and he said, "Hello, missus," and "Hello, mate." And that was about as good as it got. Well, we got him home, and he was still the little urchin. What was he, 10, 11 years of age? Still the little urchin, still fighting with all the kids at school, and he was really badly withdrawn into himself. He had no time for us, he had no time for the farm, he had no time for school, he had no time for anything. We didn't know anything about his background, but you know, other than he came from London and he was in the Blitz, he wouldn't talk about his family, his parents, nothing at all. And yeah, it was a really hard time. But Winnie never gave up on him. Then one day, well, lambing in 1941, he'd been with us about 7 or 8 months, and it was lambing, as I say, and Winnie got up in the middle of the night and went out to see to one of the ewes, which was having a bit of difficulty. And while she was there, she heard a noise behind her, and she turned round, and there was George. Middle of the night, well, 4 o'clock in the morning, freezing cold. Middle of April, and it was cold that year, 1941. And he just stood and watched, and he said nothing. And Winnie did what she had to do with the sheep, and she got the lamb out and did really well, and got it going, got it moving. Turned round, and George was gone. So she bedded him down, and then she came back to bed. And then every night, either me or Winnie would go out lambing with the ewes, looking after them, and whenever we went, George was there. And after about 2 or 3 days, he sort of started to take an interest, and after we'd seen the last one off, we had about 35 ewes at the time, and after we'd seen the last one off, he was actually getting in there, getting his hands mucky. He was really interested, and from that day on, it changed him. He was a changed lad. He had a lot more time for everything. He still got into some scrapes at school, but he didn't fight all the big lads every day just because he could, and he took a lot more interest in his schoolwork, and he turned out to be very bright. Took a lot of interest in the farm and helped me out, and yeah, he was a joy to have. Winnie was just beside herself. She was so happy, and we were like that for maybe 2 years, 3 years, getting on for 3 years. And then in 1944, his parents, well, we think it was his parents, they called him back to London, and he went out of our lives, and it did for Winnie. She was a changed woman. She suffered badly. She withdrew into herself, and the doctor said she had severe depression and she wouldn't come out of her room, and it was a really, really bad time. We struggled on the farm with just me and old Albert, who's been my labourer for quite a number of years. Yeah, it was a really, really, really bad time. Then 1946, sort of June time, I was up in the top field up near the road and working away, putting some fencing in, and I looked up and I could see this fella coming down the road. Didn't take a lot of notice, carried on with what I was doing, and then this voice said, "Hello, Dad." Dad, I thought. And I looked up, and it was our George. And he'd come back. And I didn't know what to do or what to say. I was just made up. So we took him to the house, and well, I don't think it's too strong a point to say that he actually saved my Winnie's life. From that day onwards, she bucked up. She was a lot better, and after a few months she was back to her old self, and she was as happy as Larry. And George took a lot of interest in the farm and took more of the work on and more of the organising on, and well, he's been with us ever since. And now he virtually runs my farm for me, and he's taken old Gibbons' farm on as well, which is a good job, because well, I'm sitting here in a bit of sunshine and just having a few minutes to myself, and George is over at the market, and Winnie's in the house with Bella and her mother. Well, Bella is George's intended. 2 weeks' time he's going to be a married man. Who would have thought it? All them years ago when he turned up here as an urchin, and now he's a grown man looking to get married and start his own family, and all he's got to do now is convince Winnie that when him and Bella do tie the knot, they're not going to live with us in the farmhouse here. He's going to go over to Gibbons and live in the farmhouse there and run the farms from there. And personally, I think it's a good idea, but not sure what Winnie's going to say. But there you go, that's for the future, and at the moment it's just absolutely wonderful. So I think I'll just sit here and enjoy this bit of sunshine and this bit of quiet, and well, I'll have a sneaky beer and we'll get on in a bit. So there you go. So cheers.